you have a next podcast scheduled?
For myself?
For yourself?
So I've been really taking a back seat on my podcast. There is a lot going on with like, how do I want to present who I am? There's been so much shifts and so many changes. Coming back from Peru, that was a huge integration. I'm somebody who loves to travel. Since I would say the past 10 years of my life have completely shifted who I am. And it's funny because you are 29, right?
Yeah.
I'm 39.
Nice.
When we are between 28 and 30, we go what is called a Saturn return. As a practicing astrologer, the Saturn return is this time in our life that becomes very challenging. It's this kind of like line in the sand of being a little kid and really taking responsibility for where you want to go, hard lessons, limitations. It's essentially this time in your life at the end, the end of your 20s, where you feel very constrained. You're bumping up to some type of wall.
It's amazing that you say that.
The vision that I always get is like corporate America. We promote you to an office. You're not on the floor. You're not in a cube. You get an office with a
You're more
view.
isolated.
No, but you're like, wow, this office is beautiful. I'm not going to outgrow it. I have my own space. I have a beautiful view of the trees. And then in due time, you're like, this office feels really small. So that is what a Saturn cycle is. 29.5, 29.9 years. So when Saturn goes around the sun, it's constraining you in a specific type of way for you to break free.
Wow.
And it's a slow burn.
Yes.
What happens is the wisdom, the experiences and the difficulties and challenges and restrictions, that wisdom doesn't come immediately. It takes time to learn, to integrate. For example, this happened to me when I was with somebody when I was 18 years old. We talked about relationships earlier.
And we'll continue sure.
You and I astrologically are such an amazing synergy to talk about relationships.
Why?
You are a Cancer rising, a Sagittarius sun, and a Gemini moon. You're in the area of your life, your chart. Relationships are all about focus on an area of Capricorn. What I just showed you, so I'll actually show this. There's 12 pizza slices you can see, right?
Sure.
This area is called your seventh house. These are all houses, which are departments of your life. There's subjects.
Components.
This is all about the self. This is all about money, resources, your values. This is all about communication, right? So, and each one represents. So this area, the seventh house, is all one-to-one partnerships.
Cool.
Okay. You have that as in the sign of Capricorn. I am a Capricorn sun. So
there's correlation.
My vitality shines in this area of
What's
your
Capricorn
life.
typically represent?
So Capricorn is all about, it's ruled by Saturn. Again, we're going to continue to talk about Saturn. This is a beautiful theme. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. It is the sea goat. It likes to climb up the mountain. It's all about the ascension. It's ambitious. It likes to achieve. It likes to it understands that with great responsibility comes great wisdom and triumph. It doesn't like to, it's an earth element. So it's slow. It's not something that is going to rush in instant gratification. It likes to build.
Wow.
In relationships, you are probably very loyal, very committed, very there's a stability that you like to have in relationship.
Yes.
There is an acknowledgement within oneself of integrity. You want that in a partner as well. Say what you're going to do what you're going to say, right? Even if it takes a longer time.
Yes.
Let's be slower. Let's build in a slower way to gain the wisdom, to gain the top.
So I think so. It's so funny. If I look at the course of my life, nothing that I've ever been proud of or happy about or what I feel successful in has happened quickly. And it's all required an enormous amount of patience and slow work. And on the other hand, the thing that I get most overwhelmed by are long, complicated processes like for example, like and we could talk, we could get into this in terms of just the like what's fun about like this kind of thing is that you're taking broad concepts and like personality, like things like my personality, and like you could actually see how they manifest in day-to-day life, and you could talk about the application. So when I was um, so when I was never good at doing things the same way as everyone else. I was always bad at taking tests. I was bad at SATs. When I would apply to colleges, I'd get overwhelmed by the whole application process. We have to write an essay, and you have to do this and have that form proper. And I failed my license test because I didn't bring the right paperwork there. Right, like it was just like a matter of like taking a lot of complicated processes, and I get overwhelmed by them, and I struggle with them. But on the other hand, the only things that I've ever found that I've gotten successful at, that I've been successful at, the things that I'm most proud of, are the things that were long, complicated processes, but I just was able to take my time with and do slowly. I was able to learn business over the course of many years. I do sales, and like when I started, I was afraid to answer the phone. Like a phone would ring, and I'd run to my dad, and because I work with my dad, and I'd be like, "Can you answer the phone? A customer's calling." Because I was afraid to talk to the person on the phone, and that took a long time to get out of, and we talked about, about dating, it took time it took me relatively long. I started dating. I was starting to date with the intention of getting married around 19, 20 years old.
Wow.
And so it took 6, 7 years to succeed at, and this podcast, I know that there's like, I've been doing this for months, and I'm putting out I'm putting out a lot of content. And on one hand, it is a little, like you'd like to be there. And on the other hand, I'm like, I know that it's going to take time. I know there's a process, and I also know that I love it. And so just enjoy the things I like about it, and let it just happen,
Yes,
let it,
trust the process.
I do. And I think that's kind of that, the faith that, um, by putting your head down and just keep going, and that it'll all work out okay. I think that a lot of people find that that's God, like that's like having faith in God is like what is it?
Speaking like a true Sagittarius.
Is it?
Yes, Sagittarius, his sun sign, is all about optimism. It's faith. It's ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is guru. Jupiter is this very buoyant, positive, optimistic. It likes to teach. It likes to instruct. It's all
I love
about
sharing.
philosophical matters,
Mhm.
right? How can I? And you also, so you have your moon in Gemini and your sun in Sagittarius. That means that these two parts of yourself are opposing. Where you are maybe a little bit more hidden or closed is very mental. It's a very mental energy. You have your moon that is in Gemini in your 12th house, an area of the chart that is very hidden, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's fascinating when you were talking about how, in so many words, the lack of confidence in test taking, and the 12th house is somewhat of a behind the veil, right? It's what you can't see. So there is a level of headiness and quickness that you may not fully, you're not confident about. Doesn't
Yeah.
say that
Yeah. I'm
it's
not.
not
No,
that
I'm
you're
not.
not good at it. It's more
Yeah.
of a confidence from
Yeah.
you.
I feel like I get overwhelmed. Like I can't do it. Sorry, can't do it. Put my hands up and
And
move
it's
on.
funny because it's like I said, it's opposing. So there's an area of you that does kind of excel in the details, but your true essence wants nothing more. Like you want nothing to do with the details.
Yeah.
Bigger picture.
Yes.
Much bigger picture. I love that when I walked in here, there's a book of Jordan Peterson where you're prepping for your class this evening. And I think this is a great example of Jordan Peterson is all about the psychology, and he goes into the details. And I'm sure how you present your material is you condense that into more a philosophical way,
Yeah.
and present that to your students.
Sure.
Right?
Or you narrate it. You turn it into a story. You turn
Storytelling.
you turn it into a story. That's the way that we learn. That's the way that we express ourselves. It's funny. I just bought this house recently. Yeah, which was very scary and a big. It was a big. It was a big step, and and a lot of money, a down payment, and you save for as long as you can, and you put away as long as you can, and every nickel and dime makes a difference, and it's scary because you're like, after years of saving up, and then you're like, okay, well, it's all in this, and like it needs work, and like it needs like caring, and like this is just the beginning, and like, and I was really very I was really scared about it. I was really scared, and I called my wife, and I didn't I never articulated quite how scared I was to buy the house, or and scared that I wouldn't be able to keep it up.
Right.
Scared that not only that, but like my wife's expecting, and it's going to be our second, and like that means more, it means more work, means more responsibility, more bills. By the way, just full circle, when I feel like my life is constantly living at the intersection between fun and responsibility. Like that's all I'm trying to do. And like I'm 29, exactly what you just said. I'm like, like I don't I refuse to abandon fun, and I refuse to allow fun to come at the cost of responsibility. Like I won't do things that will cause my responsibilities to suffer. I'll find fun that will work with my responsibility.
I absolutely love what you're saying. If I can dive into your astrology a bit more.
Yes.
So like we were talking about with the whole Saturn return being 29.
Yes. That's what made me think of it, by the way.
Right.
Yes.
So you're going through, so where is this real restriction showing up in your life? The questions I would ask you is everything you just said, your beliefs on responsibility and fun, those are changing, right? Those are, it's almost like before March 2023, all right? Before that time. So March 2023 is when Saturn entered Pisces. That is where you natally have Saturn in your birth chart. You have Saturn in Pisces.
My son is born March 27th, 23.
Really?
Yeah.
Fascinating. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So and when is his birthday?
March 27th.
Oh, March.
Yes. March
Aries.
27th, 2023.
Aries. Okay, Aries. I'm like, I like to.
He's turning 2. March 27th. Yes. So that's 2023. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So the questions I would ask for you in that time frame when your son was born is, like we said earlier, it's this like shit or get off the pot, Papa. Like you're a daddy now. Like things are really changing and shifting. But I think where you're realizing, and you're still not really out of it, it stems to your beliefs. So looking at yourself pre-baby, how have your beliefs changed around your philosophical beliefs, your teachings, religion? How has religion shifted in a way? How are you morphing through your beliefs? I loved what you said earlier, how there's a level of curiosity that you still want to ask throughout.
I force myself to be curious. Part of the way I do it is I consume a lot of podcasts from all different perspectives. The way that I like to think about it, the example I like to give is like if you have this can in front of you like this, right? And ask you to make an observation about the can. You can't possibly make that same observation I am looking over here from this side, because you might not even notice that it's squished. You might not notice that it says the letter Raz over here. You just might think it's a cranberry seltzer. And I'm able to look at it from this side and be able to fill in the blanks and tell you, hey, by the way, here's the detail that you might not have seen from your perspective. And I feel like that thinking works the same way.
Yes.
That, I know that I'm confined in the way that I think. I know that I'm just... I'm a culmination of just experiences and genes. And I know that everyone else is too. And part of the way that you become more whole is by opening yourself up to those other perspectives and allowing yourself to experience that.
I love it.
But before you even go to that point, you could return. So you're asking what changes, or what have I gone through that
I just think,
in that point in time?
Yeah, I think it's more just you realizing what beliefs need to kind of fall away.
I've become a lot more aware of health. Health has become an enormous priority in my life.
That makes a lot of sense.
Health has become huge. The I've definitely focused more on community. I want to invest in people that are invested in the same in the things that I value, which would be like community and health and thoughtfulness and And I mean, I've never been impressed with money for the sake of money or power for the sake of power or anything like that. That's not anything that I aspire to.
I love that you
Yes.
said that because I was just talking to this guy yesterday, and this is he told me he's from Italy, an older man, and he said, being an Italian, and I'm Italian roots.
Nice.
Money doesn't mean shit, like you're saying. If you don't have your health, you can have all the money in the world, right? So I love that your
Yeah, of
health
course.
has
More
come to
focused,
mind,
yes.
and we realize that you cannot put a price on health.
Well, it's a vehicle. Money's a vehicle, and if you have a car but you don't have any friends, then where are you going to go? Yeah, and if you have a car and you don't have a house to go to, where are you going to go? And people accumulate it, and people desire, and there are people that, like, for example, I have friends. I don't blame. This is not a. I'm not trying to be condescending. I'm not blaming. I have friends that live, let's say, in the tri-state area, New York, right? And just because they want to live there, you can't even get them past the question of why you want to be here, right? But just because they want to live there requires an enormous amount of work, requires an enormous amount of money, requires an enormous amount of almost checking out. Like you have to be so busy to maintain something that you're not really aware of why it is that you're maintaining this lifestyle. And to me, that's not the kind of people I'm surrounding myself with. That's not to me that's it's a lot less intentional than I try to be. And I like to ask questions and get to the root of things and see what could be stripped away, what's there. Well, what I think that's really important for people, and that's why I guess as you get older, you kind of see as you go through life and as you toughen through everything, right? Everyone has all these challenges. What's left to you, and that's usually the best or strongest parts for a lot of people, and so like or you end up broken, like the other way around, and they just took everything that was good from you. I'm a huge Springsteen nut, yeah, and that's all his music is about, and
everything you're talking about, I have been working through this process of since 2020. Once COVID happened, and I have said this numerous times on my podcast and social media,
yeah,
a fish doesn't know they're in water until you take them out.
Mhm.
And I think COVID essentially was
Yes.
that for a lot of people, myself included, with corporate America, realizing once you took me out of that office scene,
Yeah.
there was this mind shift of like what really matters, right?
So tell me about yourself. I want to hear. So let's go.
So
So let's go into who you are. So tell me about
I
yourself.
have always loved. I am a practicing astrologer. I love all things ethereal.
Have you
And
always loved
cosmic.
that? It's always spoken to you.
It's always spoken to me since I was 4 years old. I can remember sitting at the kitchen table with my huge family and knowing everybody's birthday and their birthstone.
How big's your family?
My grandpa at the time was they've
Sure.
passed, one of 13. So
Wow.
Italian family,
Awesome. Everyone
right?
is close?
Not anymore.
Okay.
Once upon a time.
Gotcha. In South Jersey.
In Philadelphia, Philadelphia. Yeah,
Philly.
in Philly.
Nice. Yeah.
And I moved down here when I was super young, and at an early age, I had my first, I guess like alien or like cosmic type of experience.
Nice.
5 years old. You're probably too young to know this show, but for your listeners, Full House was a very big
I know
okay.
Full House.
Right,
I'm also a huge Cheers and Frasier fan,
okay.
and yeah. Okay.
So Full House was always. I was like 5 years old, and I remember going to bed that night. Had a little day bed, and I can remember. I saw this all happening. I crawled out of my body to the foot of my bed.
No way.
And I saw like a family almost right at the foot. It felt very safe, very loving, nothing scary, and it was just this feeling, this essence of love.
Mhm.
Crawled back into my body, woke up the next morning, ran to my mom and said, "Oh my God, Mom, I had this crazy dream." And she told me, "It's probably because you were watching Full House." So from age, I have no idea why she said this. She just didn't want to entertain something crazy. Or maybe
Yeah.
at 5 years old, I didn't articulate what exactly I experienced.
Yeah.
So from 5 years old until 2020, I created this story that I had this dream, but it really wasn't. But I always remembered this dream.
You were aware. I have certain dreams that I
you
remember. Yes, for sure.
Life,
Yes.
right? You have to ask yourself, like, was that really? What is a dream, right? Like, what? I don't know. What is a dream? So as COVID started to kind of, and with astrology, always loved the zodiac and just reading about the different zodiac signs, but not really until 2020, understanding that it's a sacred language.
Mhm.
So 2020, my world was completely like just crumbling like everybody else's, and I got this.
You were living down here.
Living down here, yeah.
Okay,
I live in
gotcha.
Florida.
Yeah.
this pull to go to Sedona. And at this time, I love to travel. Love to travel.
You've
Explore.
always have?
Always have. There's this, I would say it's really ramped up my late 20s.
Okay.
And in my early 30s, more international.
Where have you loved to? Where are some of your favorite places that you've been
Oh
to?
my God. I mean, so everything's gonna funnel
sure.
down to astrology. There's a thing called astrocartography where we lay your birth chart, the chart that I just showed you, of everything, over a map, over the globe. And these lines will activate different places on the world. So you can travel to different parts of the world
Based on yourself, almost, your essence.
Exactly. And you kind of work with the energy. And I didn't really know any of this. So in 2018, I felt this pull to go to Amsterdam, Europe, somewhere
Cool.
alone, right? I had gone back and forth a little bit.
Were you working at this point? What was your?
I was still in corporate America.
What was your career?
So I have always been an executive assistant, just kind of working with CEOs and that. Really fell into it, just like everyone gets out of college. What the hell am I doing with my life? And I went to Florida State.
Nice.
For actually a criminology background.
Cool. I'm trying to get a criminologist on the podcast, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I'm bothering a professor at FIU. He hasn't responded to me yet.
I love the psychology of it. I think that's kind
Yeah,
of why
yeah,
I
of
went into it,
course.
like the
Yeah, it's
psychology of the
amazing.
killer, or just the people who aren't right, quote unquote.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, after college, still in corporate America, still doing my thing in 2018, went over to Amsterdam, and while the plane touched down, I got this vision of meeting a guy, and I was like, this doesn't make sense. Who could this be? Sure as shit, 2 days later, I meet this guy. We totally hit it off.
No
we
way.
dated for a year and a half, long distance, back and forth. Yeah. So it was that kind of time where I was like, wait a minute.
From Amsterdam?
From Amsterdam.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And when you got a vision, physical, emotion, were you able to backtrack it in the past as a vision? Like, oh, that's what it was?
When I touched down in Amsterdam, it was almost this feeling of, like, when you're little and you're like, your family, you're from down here, right?
I'm from New York.
You're from New York. So, and your grandparents live down here?
My grandfather, yeah. My grandparents, yeah.
So like they'd visit up there and then they would leave. When you were a little person, did you ever like get sad like that like, oh, I'm like my family's going back to their home, like when they would come up and visit?
Sure.
It was this sadness feeling almost of like true like love being missed.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. And then
so interesting.
I just felt like I correlate this with a partner. Like it was
wow.
and then it just kind of like in my mind's eye, or I'm very audible. I think I hear a lot more than like I see.
And by the way, our audible and visual parts of our brains are super strongly linked.
Yes.
And so that's why I'm sure that's part of why we call these kind of things visuals.
I mean, they're called the clairsentient, like clairsenses, the clairs, right? You're clairaudient, clairsentient. So like
cool.
Ethereal, right? So I don't physically hear someone saying,
yes, of course, yes, of course.
I just hear.
Yeah, you sense it.
Right.
Right.
That's the clairs, the intuition. That's intuition. So yeah, 2018, traveling all of that, doing all of that, incredible, expansive, and then the pandemic happened in 2020. Me and this guy were still dating, and it was kind of this like, shit or get off the pot. What are we gonna do? The whole world closed down. Everything happens for a reason. It was incredible.
Yes.
So once 2020 happened, I had never worked with psychedelics, and I could feel going to Amsterdam. I had always talked. His name was Don. Like, oh, should we get some magic mushrooms? Because obviously marijuana and magic mushrooms are all legal in Amsterdam.
Sure.
We never did mushrooms. So I came back to the States in 2020. Smoked. Yes. Awesome. Santa Maria so I do work pretty extensively with plant medicine. And I think it's important to note that these plant spirits should be referred to as kind of their spirit name.
Okay.
The level of consciousness, right? I don't always do this. I am not perfect. I still say weed and cannabis and all of that. But like I try to work in Santa Maria. Santa Maria. Santa Maria is what cannabis
I would love to start calling
Santa
cannabis
Maria. And it's fascinating. You are currently smoking a cigar. Tobacco. So I've learned this in my studies with ayahuasca. Tobacco is one of the oldest spirits, if not the oldest spirit here on the land. And in ceremonies, it's so important they're called, what are they called? Pacha.
Blunts.
No.
Just kidding. No. Yeah.
There's a specific tobacco type that's very sacred that is used in shamanic practices.
Oh, yes, right? Sure.
But what I learned was, and I come from a long lineage of cigarette smokers, and that tobacco isn't a bad plant, isn't a bad medicine. You get all of the carcinogens and all of that shit. That's what makes it bad, right?
Yeah.
And it's such a way to that the powers that be have made such a shit ton of money on tobacco, right? They separate it. However, it's believed that any type of smoke, specifically when you're lighting sage or incenses or anything, or tobacco, the prayer that is said, being very mindful of what you're thinking, that smoke is taking it up to the heavens.
Sure.
So I love that.
That's very, very, it's integral in Judaism, by the way.
Really?
Enormous. There's enormous, aside from the aspect, wow, there's so many things. First of all, all the, I guess more tribal sacrifices they used to bring the, I guess, the way that it's described in the Old Testament is as it's supposed to create a scent. It's supposed to be a pleasing scent as opposed to something physical or like food. Like you're not saying it's food, you're saying that there's a scent that's valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And then what part of the services that the priests would do or that the educators would do also involved burning different scents and bringing them and bringing them in the sense would even and they would talk about first of all you weren't allowed to bring honey with it. Honey for some reason would I guess blanket, or I guess kind of prohibit, all the individual components because it was made of a bunch of different individual, herbs or scents or whatever it was. And then there's a whole list. I'll get it afterwards. Because I have it translated, from Hebrew to English, and it's a whole list of every single one that they used to bring, and and there was a discussion, the oral tradition would discuss how individually these wouldn't smell very good, and when you'd burn them all together, it would create just a scent of the God, scent for God, and like that's what it was, and
Fascinating.
yeah, and I mean this is and even today, we use scents as a way to separate from spiritual and mundane, and you have Shabbos, you have Sabbath, and then every Saturday night when Sabbath ends you make a blessing on grape juice, on light, right, to separate from light and day, to say that then at this point in time is over and now it's another point in time, and then also on besamim, which is smell, which is anything that smells pleasing. You can use any kind of incense that smells good, and without it you can't separate these two entities. And I'm so curious, where that comes from. It's really really cool.
Yeah.
So all these scents.
Yeah, the prayer, the up to the heavens.
So it's trying to be intentional with what you're smoking.
Correct. So, I was like, how do we get here?
Yes.
So Amsterdam, yes. Magic mushrooms, all of that.
Yes, COVID. So 2020 comes along,
yes.
everything gets shut down.
Everything gets shut down, and I am so curious to start to work with hallucinogens and that type of medicine. And I start dating a guy who lives in South Miami who seemed to be very. This was like wow, like a spirit. I've never dated a spiritual man or somebody who's ethereal who can teach me things and crystals and all of that, right?
Yeah.
And he had some mushrooms. We did it my first time. It wasn't interesting. It was definitely nothing too extreme, or it was the perfect
introduction.
The perfect introduction, also not, but we'll lay it as that. It opened my mind enough to become very curious.
Recognize that there's something fascinating going on.
Exactly. Right. And immediately after that, it was like some type of, they always say with ayahuasca, you get the phone call. And I think once mushrooms was like the ring, and then I picked up the phone and I was like, hello. And it was like, hey, it's ayahuasca.
Yeah.
We want you to start.
When you come in interview with us.
We're ready when you're ready.
Right.
And I was like, oh shit, okay. So I started asking people, it took me probably from March 2020 until Lionsgate, which is August 8th. Yeah, 8/8/2021 for me to sit in my first ceremony.
8/8/21 is
so it was
the
about
date I got engaged.
No way!
I believe, yes. And I got married 11/11/21.
No way!
Yeah. 8/8. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, definitely. So while you were discovering
my union with something greater than me, you were
I was creating a new sense of self. Absolutely.
In the theater or in the 3D, we should say. Fascinating. So before the medicine journey in 2021, I had also felt this very call to kind of still continue down the path of travel. realizing that places call you. You don't go to places. So I was going back and forth from 2018 to 2020 to Europe, and come 2020 it was this shift where I felt the land start to call me. Sedona is a very sacred native land of Indians, and or
Yeah.
Indians the wrong
Native
word, Native
Americans,
Americans,
Indians, whatever. Everyone understands the context too, I'm sure.
the natives, of the indigenous culture of America. And I went there, and I had met a woman, a psychic, and it was so interesting. My whole life I've been so fascinated with psychics, right? Like how do people go to psychics and they kind of tell you something and it like does or doesn't make sense?
Yeah.
Like I'm a very physical. I need evidence as much as I want to entertain that it's
Sure.
all magic. I still need some physicality
Yeah, yeah.
of like
Well, you need some kind of
proof.
or I guess like sequence, meaning there are things that are difficult to swallow, difficult pills to swallow in and of themselves, but they make sense. Like you can have a conversation and say, "This is how you get there," and you can you could identify. You start here, and you can make your way to there, right? And like whether or not you want to accept that or whether you want to believe it, that's another conversation. But at least there's like a series of steps that you can follow,
Mm.
and there's certain people there's certain things that just believe me.
Right.
And they don't have that, and they don't have that sequence of steps that, when pressed, that you can like articulate or be
Right.
eloquent about.
Right. So always so fascinated with psychics that when I went to Sedona, it was this profession that was taken seriously, that was
Really?
practiced seriously. That yeah, there was a much more grounded approach than like what I've come in contact
What was
with.
it like when you got to Sedona?
Oh my God, it
So
is.
you get on a plane?
So
You drove? What'd you do?
you drive into Phoenix, or you fly into Phoenix, and then I don't know, maybe like 2 hours you drive north. And I would read blogs and talk to people, and everyone always said, and everything I always read, the second you get to Sedona, because it's red rock, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
immense red rock. It kind of takes you back. I thought to myself, I mean,
Yeah,
how
how far back?
breathtaking could it be,
Yeah.
right? I shit you not. I like went over this mountain, and I was like, the most gorgeous
Yeah.
landscape
Yes. Yes.
ever. I mean, it was just
America is one of the most beautiful
they're
countries in the world. America has so many incredible,
amazing.
like, yeah,
It's
yeah,
a vortex, Sedona. It is, and I will say, you do meet some people who are not grounded, who are
sure.
very spinny and stuff. But I really went to this woman. Her name was Carrie, who just blew my mind with how she presented the unseen world.
Sure.
And I thought to myself, if this lady can do it, why can't
Sure.
I?
Yes.
How do I get to? And
Isn't that an amazing realization? I love that
when you can
experience.
like see yourself in the other,
Yes, yes.
you finally don't hold them on a pedestal.
Because it's also revealing a new part of yourself
Right.
that you could
That
be.
has always existed.
Yes,
You just
yes,
haven't
yes,
seen it.
exactly. I feel that way, by the way. I discovered that with a lot with music lyrics. Like when I listen, like I've said this before and I on the podcast, but um part of like why I was so enamored by Springsteen for so long was because when I was feeling like I was trying to discover myself and I didn't know how to, and I didn't know the feelings that I was experiencing while doing that, and I'd listen to the lyrics and the tone of his music, and I would actually feel like he was helping guide me to myself, to like
I'm gonna
to
blow your mind
yeah.
right now.
Let's hear it.
So you know how? Okay, we all have cells in our body. Duh, D. The way that music works, Springsteen is obviously unlocking your like different remembrances in your DNA. Think of music keys, literal keys, right? Like
Hmm.
I'm playing the guitar,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
playing, but think of it more in like a
Yeah.
key, like opening the door. It's unlocking
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
yourself
Oh yeah.
inside of we know so little of our DNA. Science does,
Yeah.
right? We have to put our trust into something greater that is going to infiltrate us in a way that isn't a medicine or
Yeah, yeah. I'm a different human being when I listen to James Taylor and I listen to Springsteen, I listen to the Grateful Dead. I'm a different human being, and not only that, a different. I'm a different. I'm on a different level of consciousness. I'm not.
mm-hmm,
I'm not.
mm-hmm.
I don't think the same way. I don't feel the same way. I don't respond the
Medicine.
same way. It's for sure, for sure, for sure. There is the other. I wish that people were more open to the fact that we know so little, And when you admit that you don't know a lot, you could learn so much. And when you could learn so much, the world is exciting.
Yes.
Everything is amazing. Everything's exciting.
I think your son is probably your greatest teacher. The childlike wonder that
Yes.
little kid has to look at a tree or a piece of rock or something. It's such curious. We lose that as humans.
Yeah.
We forget our essence.
By the way, I think that's what plant medicine helps with. That's what this is.
Brings you
LSD,
back to-
LSD absolutely woke up something inside of me. Absolutely.
How old were you when you did that?
I took LSD almost around the same time as you had your realization. It was 2020, lockdown. I was losing my mind. I was I just turned 25. I told you about that little breakdown I had at 25, and I decided I was going to take a road trip. I called I was going to go by myself, because what better way to realize it's okay to be by yourself than travel by yourself, right? So I went online. It was, again, dead of COVID. I was actually here in South Florida. I was visiting my grandparents. I got an Airbnb right by like 20th and Collins, and right by Lincoln Road. And I went online. I got a rental car for $20 a day. It was a Camaro, unlimited miles, and I drove to Austin. And right as I was about to leave, I had another friend who is a great guy. I didn't leave it at that. Great guy. And he calls me. He goes, I actually just got 2 weeks off of work. He called me, wish me happy birthday. He goes, I just have 2 weeks off of work. What are you up to? I'm like, well, I'm actually going on a road trip. He goes, can I come? I said, sure. So he comes to me, and this guy has been advocating. He's been telling me to read the book How to Change Your Mind, and he's been advocating. Like, he's more recreational in terms of his use of LSD or shrooms or whatever. But he didn't even tell me he brought it. He was just like, okay, I'll come down for the road trip. So we went to Tampa, and we went to Tallahassee, we went to New Orleans for the weekend. We ended up and went to Houston, to Austin, and then in Austin, we went to a moonshine bar, and we were drinking, and I was like, you know what, dude, I'm curious. We should try it. And he was like, "Are you serious?" And this was, I don't know, 6:37 o'clock p.m. And I only started smoking weed, or I guess what do you call it, Marion? Santa Maria. I only started smoking Santa Maria a year or two earlier. All this was very new to me. And so I was expecting a similar experience, right? And so we go home, and he gives me a tab, and I'm like, okay, see how it goes. And I was like, so what are you gonna do? Find a movie? He goes, a movie?
You gotta go explore, boo.
And he goes, where? He goes, and I'm like, yeah, we're not gonna go we're not gonna go to sleep. I'm exhausted. He goes, dude, you are not sleeping tonight. I was like, what do you mean not sleeping tonight? And we went to hear some live music, and it was at a local Austin bar, and it was a Southern rock band, and hole in the wall that was playing live music from 11 p.m. to like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. It was like a random like Monday or Tuesday night, and everything, everything just felt in harmony. Everything just felt unified. The lights felt like they belonged to the music, and just the same way that the music belonged to the lights. The way that the people were dancing with the music, and the way that couples were square dancing, and people were playing pool and like having a good time, and like everything just felt like it was just one beautiful picture and one beautiful dance that you couldn't do the wrong dance move to, because
There's no
just to be
decision,
here,
right or
just to
wrong.
be here is to be part of that dance,
Right.
and just to and I was like, this is beautiful, And then after we were there for a couple hours, we went back, and we were just talking about life for several hours, until he fell asleep. Experience. But I was like, I was like, I don't know what this is, but I don't get why there's a stigma.
Right.
I don't get why.
I think it's fascinating you bring that up. I was just talking with my partner. There's a stigma because we want quick fixes. We think anything outside of ourselves is going to fix us. People, you and I, have these amazing experiences. We tell people they want to have the same. If they're not grounded enough to understand that with taking this very potent medicine, there's integration that needs to happen.
Sure.
You're gonna keep popping something in hopes to continue to.
Well, it's like forcing someone to go to therapy or someone to go to rehab. Like, you can't force anyone to do these things and be successful. You have to be ready for it. But the same way, you can't just force a trip, and you can't
But
force.
it's like you specifically, you're telling a story where you learned a lot and you're incorporating that learning wisdom into your, I'm sure, your day-to-day life at times.
All
Not
the
all the time. Like, I'm sure you're human.
Well,
Shit happens.
it snowballed me.
Right.
I'm a different person.
Right.
I'm a different person. And the second time I did it, I was in a log cabin in North Carolina, and I felt tired. I actually I was questioning a lot of my life, because I was like, what am I don't know whether I'm supposed to feel like the entire weight of the world just pushing down on me. But what is it? Like, what? Because I really believe, for example, podcasts, right? I love podcasting. And when I walk away from these kind of conversations, I have so much energy. I feel like I'm accomplishing what I'm supposed to accomplish, and I feel like my life, like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I feel that way after a good teaching, after a good class. I feel that way after spending time with my kid. I feel that way after this. I walk away, even with my community, like spending time with my community. I feel like I just feel rejuvenated. And I was like, what am I doing that I don't feel rejuvenated with my day-to-day actions? Like, if I sleep well and I'm tired, I can still be tired and satisfied and rejuvenated. I don't have to have the feeling of. I kind of feel like and it's an energy. It's an energy I actually get from big cities. I feel like big cities or big, clusters of people tend to have a little bit more of that tired energy where you're just trying to make it and how close till you're there. And like, do you want to go through life? Or do you want to live your life exhausted, or do you want to live your life excited and enthusiastic? And I never I've only done it twice. I haven't done it again since then. I haven't felt really the need. Like I felt like like
You feel I believe in it calling.
I feel like I have.
believe.
Yeah, I have one due soon. I think I could feel that. I feel like there's I it took me. I have a hard time processing big life changing events while they happen. And usually I have to go into a little bit of autopilot in order to go through it, right? Just like getting through buying the house or getting married was very scary. Or having, when my son was born, I had a little panic attack in the hospital. I was like, the implications of what it takes to raise a child is enormous, and it's so easy to screw up. I know that from everyone around me. I know that from, and I'm very fortunate. I won the lottery 100 times over with the family I was born. With the relationships that I have with my family, my siblings, my cousins, and everyone. But I was like, but I also know how delicate that is, and I was afraid to screw that up. And so I couldn't. It was too much of a weight for me to process. And I think right now, I've gotten to the point where to my life where I'm comfortable with what my existence is, where I'm no longer autopiloting. I took back the controls, and I'm like, okay.
Now you're playing the game.
Now I'm playing the game. Yeah, and this is the first time in couple of years that I mean, obviously it's kind of broken down in different aspects, right? So my relationship with my wife probably took a year and a half before I realized I was even married. Like, like I really felt like you are my wife, you are my spouse, my partner, my the we are identity, as individuals, and also something bigger when we come whenever we do things together. And it took me a long time to be comfortable. It took me time to be comfortable with that idea, So now that I feel like I have my hands on the wheel again, I'm really curious to see, I would like to I'd like to reconjoin with, with that element of spirituality and life and that kind of medicine. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I'm excited about it.
I love that for you.
I have to just figure out a time and place to make it happen.
Unfold.
So I just hijacked your story. So Sedona. So
Sedona was amazing. Met
she met this woman. She did an incredible job explaining the unseen world, and you said, "How come I can't do that?"
I said, how can I do that? How can I learn this? She was a teacher, and she was offering I think it was an 8-week course, like how to hone into your intuition.
Okay.
So when I went to Sedona in November, and the class, I believe, kicked off end of January. So it was kind of this like perfect domino effect. And when I'm somebody who also is very grippy on money. There's a level of fear around money. I am presently unemployed. I'm not unemployed. I am not working the way that I've always worked with a steady income, and that can be
It's not stable.
It's not stable. It's a very scary thing. But again, going back to trust, that
Yes.
something is taking care of me. Something is always going to provide for you.
Yes.
It's very challenging.
Yes, but you're doing what you have to do.
But we're doing it.
But also, you're going. There's an idea in Judaism, you call it hishtadlus, which is effort. You know, and you believe that, you know, everything is God, but you gotta almost like go through the motions to activate it, you know, and to sit on your couch is not action.
Exactly.
To pursue is action.
Right. Yeah. I love that. So studied under her for 8 weeks, and I'm tying this into the first thing that I said about my first my dream.
Yes.
We were in one of her classes, and she told a story of something very similar that happened to her as a child. And I got full body chills when she told me her experience. And the class ended, and I called her, and I was like almost a little like, wow, what happened to me? And the fact that I still remember it in such detail was something much bigger. Like, I too have these gifts. I too am this psychic or clairvoyant or whatever label you want to pop on it.
Sure.
And that broke me open. That activated my astrology skills. It's 111 right now. That activated my depth of devotion to the sacred language of astrology. It was just this remembrance over the next 25 years now that I'm doing it all. After Sedona, there was a shift in where I felt the call to travel, and that was really coming back to indigenous lands. I spent a lot of time in Guatemala. I spent a lot of time in Mexico. I spent a lot of time in Peru. It was now seeing that if I wanted to really hone on to my gifts, abilities, and talents that are innately mine, that I don't learn in school, that I haven't learned in college, I need to go back to the fundamentals of how humans existed. And how is that? With the land, with the sacred. Like, I want to get dirty. I want to eat the mushrooms, eat the medicine, like really live and camp and be one with Pachamama. And that this has just taken me to another world. And that's why, so through all of this, 2020 until July of last year, there was this there's a butterfly.
Oh, beautiful.
There was this conscious co-creation video game, like you were saying. I'm now in the game. I'm now conscious of what I can create with my mind. That I knew I was never going to quit my job. I'm a responsible human. That would be silly. I had a cush job. I worked from home. I would go to yoga in the middle of the day. Why the fuck would I get rid of a job that brought me in over $100,000 and then be like, oh God, I'm SOL. Yeah. So there was this SOL. I trusted the process that. And at this time, my company was then moved to private, and they were going through these massive layoffs like every year. And I just thought, wouldn't it be better if you kind of waited for corporate America to pop you out versus you quit and get a severance where you get more time in kitchen? Sure. And as I was going through all this, I was starting up my own little side business of my astrology and my one-on-one sessions, because I do that. Anyone who's listening, if you're interested, I'm one-on-one. I have a lot of different offerings. We'll post a link to everything. Yeah, anyone who's interested. So it was very challenging to straddle corporate America and this ethereal, spiritual person. And it was so challenging. It was like, a Chinese finger trap when you're trying to get it out. So December 2023, I went for my first 4-day ayahuasca ceremony. 4 days. 4 days.
And it's 4 doses, 1 dose per day?
It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 cups throughout 4 days.
Do you sleep?
You do sleep, very minimally. It does. It's a journey. They do it very responsibly. It's done beautifully.
Sure. Wait, so this was Sedona?
I've done all of my plant medicine here in South Florida. If anybody else is interested,
really?
Yes, everything. I practice with a couple that resides, I think, up in like West Palm.
Okay.
They have down in Homestead a place that they do it, but they do overnights that are anywhere between 20 to 30 people one night. And then the studies that they offer are 4 days, where it's a much intimate group. It's only 10 people. Wow. And you really get to bond, and you want to heal. You want to see parts of yourself. That's the level that I was like, I'm ready for that. I need to go deeper.
Was that scary to initially get into? To push yourself to do?
Yes. after and to kind of
Like 4 days sounds like a lot. Like I did like LSD. I needed to recover.
and it's you start to the way that they do it. The first night you have a ceremony that starts at like 6, and you're in ceremony probably until midnight, right?
Yeah.
And then you go to sleep, you wake up, you take a spoonful of it, you do some yoga. There's other plant medicines, sananga, hape. I should have brought all of these medicines to show you. I don't
Cool.
have
Yeah, that's okay. I want to see them though. Another time.
It's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah.
It's all, and then you break for a little bit. This is where we learn where how to take from the land, how to provide offerings, how the history of the medicine. That's where I learned about the tobacco and the spirit and
Yes.
everything. It's like
Yes.
a little
Yes. Yes.
school
Sure.
almost.
Sure.
And then you go into the deeper ceremony from like 2 until almost
Midnight.
and 10, 11 o'clock.
Does it last? It lasts 6 hours per dose.
You're taking two in that we take 2 cups, two.
And you took 2 cups at once, and that lasted for longer. Or did you take 1 cup and then a couple hours later another cup?
Exactly.
Okay,
It's
gotcha.
kind of it's like waves.
Yeah.
You
Gotcha.
gotta
Yeah.
time the journey.
Sure.
So in the ceremony,
Is there a lot of music?
it's they are musicians.
They are musicians.
So a lot of mantras.
Do they make up their own music, or do they
have
play?
both, everything, all the above. They are incredible humans. You would be, amazed. They're very heavy in yoga. I'd love to meet.
I'd love to meet them.
Yes.
Let's talk to them.
So you got to come for a ceremony.
Yeah.
I feel it in your future. When you are ready, you will know. But I feel that very deeply after this connection.
Okay. Yeah.
An overnight first. I wouldn't put you in the.
Yeah. You would be. I don't know when I'll be able to take 4 days.
No.
From my at this
life,
point.
exactly.
Yeah, from my responsibilities.
And there's even so you have to also. I love that you're saying that. Like we were saying, you want to work with the big dogs. You have to really be mindful of the integration process as well. Whenever I touch this medicine, there's prep, there's hardcore diet, there's also hardcore diet after, because you cannot just jump back into the life that you once had.
Yeah.
You have to put up some boundaries around, family, friends, energies of that nature. So in this particular ceremony in December, I'm getting to a beautiful point. 4 days after the ceremony, maybe 2 or 3 days, I had a dream. And in this dream, I had a clock. And the countdown said June 2024. And it had my company's logo, like a bomb was going off, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not gonna, my job's not going to exist in the summer. All right. I went into that. It was like after the holidays. So 2024, January, I go back to work. And it was this softness that I heard that said, put the side hustle away. Don't try and live this double life. Submerge yourself into corporate America. Because the only way to get, what is that saying? The only way around something is through it. Or
Yeah, sure.
So I was trying to get out of it when I wasn't fully completed.
Yes.
So I had to really be like, all right, how do I find the joy in every moment here in corporate America, even though it fucking sucks, and I know all the things, all the stories, right?
Yeah, sure.
Enjoy these last 6 months because they're not going to last forever. And I really did it. I did.
You enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it.
What was it like? What did you do to enjoy it?
It was a very freeing thing. So if you're in corporate America, I think.
Was it like senior year of high school or college? You're like,
yeah.
oh yeah, I know that I'm not going to be here in a couple of months, so let's just have a good time.
Yes and no, because I'd have those days where I was like, fuck it, whatever. They can't fire me yet.
Yeah.
I know my day's coming. But then there'd be days where I was like, oh God, I need this job. Don't fuck up.
Yeah.
This sure. Or this back and forth.
Sure.
The goals. I think everyone in corporate America, everyone has fucking goals. When we had to make our goals in January, I remember talking to my boss, who was cool as shit, and I was like, listen to me. I will put whatever you want on the paper, but I'm not going to be here for much longer. So let's just cut the bullshit.
You said that, really?
Yeah, honest to God. And I think that's ayahuasca.
How'd your boss respond to that?
I actually did ayahuasca with her son. So she was it got to a point while I was in corporate America that you have to acknowledge who you are authentically. Mm-hmm. I was not fitting in with this world anymore, this corporate world. Mm-hmm. Why am I going to try and hide that authentic? The sooner you are yourself, the sooner the universe will eject you out of areas.
You're saying beautiful things. You really
are.
are.
The universe will eject you out of shit that isn't in alignment with you anymore.
Yep.
I'm yelling at you.
No, I know. No. I love it. I love it. Because I completely agree.
So I'm getting you a good part. So I get the call, the
Yeah.
audio call, right? The audio call of it's time to do another 4-day ceremony. And I'm thinking to myself, what? Like I started doing guardianship. So instead of showing up to the overnight ceremonies, I started taking a more of a role in guardian, in really protecting the people when we had ceremony. When you're a guardian, there's 4 or 5 guardians. You clean the buckets when everyone throws up. You making sure you take a little bit of the medicine. You are not as invested in other people, but you're guarding the energy. You're cleaning people. You're cleansing people. You're moving the energy. So I did that a few times, and after the second time I did it, I heard it's time to sit with the medicine even deeper.
Wow.
And I thought, okay, the ceremony was the end of June. So I took days off. This was right around, like, I guess the week before 4th of July. I didn't go back into my office after the ceremony.
Way.
And I got laid off on July 2nd,
Wow.
2024.
Wow.
It was wild.
Wow.
And it's okay, so now full story. In the 2024 or the June 2024 4-day ceremony, there was this essence that came through of speaking and storytelling and more on stage and more live events.
Yes.
And we met last week,
a week ago,
doing open mic night.
Yeah.
And I have felt this pull to be more, hi, I'm a showman. Like, look at me. Like, so.
And you were awesome, by the way.
Thank you so much.
Like, you really, like, you emanated. The second that you got up, I knew I wanted to talk to you after. Before you even said ayahuasca or discovering corporate America, anything like that. Before you said any of that, like, I think that there's, first of all, enthusiasm, but it was like there was no question that you were doing what you wanted to do. There's an enormous amount of intentionality with when you got up there. That it's funny because it doesn't. I think people assume that intentionality also equals confidence. Like, you did not.
I had nothing prepped.
No, you did nothing prep. Yeah, you didn't know what to do. But you knew that but it was very clear that you knew you wanted to be up there, and that it was on purpose that you were there. And, like, it wasn't like, oh, it was cute and someone, like, signed up your name or whatever it is. Like, you're like, I'm trying to accomplish something.
I'm showing
here.
up.
Yes, I'm here because I'm playing. I'm here for something. I'm participating.
Yes.
And it was really great. It was really great.
So much. Thank you.
Keep it up.
Thank you. So I love that. I love that. Tomorrow, have you ever heard of Moth, the Moth storytelling? You probably would love it as well. It's raw, authentic stories. MOTH, like
sure,
like the insect. Moth. It's a global phenomenon. Different chapters, I guess. Got 500,000 followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
And they have it's called Story Slam, I think it is, where you buy tickets. I think the tickets are $20. It's happening tomorrow night in Miramar, and you put your name in a hat, so it's not guaranteed. 10 people get picked, and you get 5 minutes to tell your story on stage.
Nice.
And the topic is love hurts. And I've looked at the topics previously, but nothing ever really spoke to me. So when I left the open mic night last Tuesday, we have a full moon happening this week in the sign of Leo, which is in my astrology, an area of communication and the way that I talk and perform. And
beautiful.
So when I left the open mic night on Tuesday, I thought, I wonder if there's anything bigger I could do next week. And I went on, and it all kind of lined up, and I was like, I feel very called. So you're going to this. So I'm going to this.
How far is that from here?
Miramar? It's just, it's probably like, I don't know, maybe like a half hour, 40 minutes from here. If that, maybe you're closer. Miramar, it's
south of here?
South and west.
Southwest. Gotcha.
West.
Okay.
I'll give you the info. I'll text you.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very curious about it.
Yeah, and I have been waiting to tell the story that I'm going to tell tomorrow for 10 years.
Nice.
Love
so excited.
Hurts is the premise. I fell in love at age 18. I went to FSU. You know exactly who you are at age 18. No, that's complete bullshit.
But you feel like you do.
People tell you that you do.
You didn't think that you knew yourself?
Absolutely not at age 18. No, I didn't even do laundry at 18. Yeah,
but you still... Okay, fine. Go ahead. Sure.
I didn't.
Okay.
I
sure.
think...
I didn't... I know now I wasn't. I thought then that I did.
Yes. Okay. Hindsight. I
Yes.
respect what you're saying. Yes,
Yes.
because I thought I knew who I was, I fell in love very hard, very quick, and it completely over-identified and entangled myself in someone else. And honestly, you can trace that back to your lineage. My mother, grandmother, great grandmother, all have this wound around males, right? We give everything to the male. We completely forget about ourselves.
Sure, sure.
It's not to say that I don't think I am some feminist by any means. I really do think gender roles are important, and I love a woman who takes care of the home and being supportive and the protector, all of that. But I think that my family, my lineage, there's no boundaries. It's you're indebted, you're a slave, right?
Yes, yes.
So dated this guy all of my 20s, got engaged at 27, married 28, divorced at 29.
Wow.
And the way that we got divorced, now I was not a saint. This was not a healthy relationship. We did a lot of drugs. We were not good.
Right.
But the way that he did it, so at it was in March, we were.
And now, oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I went to go get my new license with my new last name.
Yeah, sure.
And it was early in the morning in DMV. Took a picture, sent it to him via text. He replied back, "You look like a soccer player. I can't do this for the rest of my life."
What?
And I read the text message and I thought, what does he mean? He can't do what for the rest of his life? So I called him. He was at work. He was an attorney. He is an attorney. And I said, "What?" I'm like, I wasn't nice. I was like, "What the fuck does that mean?"
Yeah.
He's like, I can't do this for the rest of my life, Deanna." And I just like it felt like that when there's an explosion and like it's like my heart sat like it just.
Do you think he had that experience? Do you think he felt that explosion by like when he said that to you?
I think I have so much compassion and love for him more now than I did probably when I was with him. It took a lot for him to do what he did because I was never going to leave. Never.
Right. I had that experience on a much smaller scale, but from the other side. Not sorry. Similar in the sense I had a girlfriend in college that we were very, we thought we were going to get married and, and we were talking, and obviously at a different pace, I think, because again, the pressures of, we talked about the pressures of the Jewish world, that you felt like, okay, like my wife and I, 7 months after our first date, we were married. I mean, that doesn't happen very typically, And so we were dating for 2 years. That was considered a very long period of time. And my mom refused to let us go ahead until there was a couple of things or she said, I don't have her support. And my mom is one of the most intelligent, intuitive, and morally clear, people. And she's very emotionally articulate and aware. She's like, your relationship right now, you're going to burn yourself out. Your relationship is you doing everything. And not to say we don't love her, and we do love her, and she's wonderful and she's sweet. And it was sitting with me. I got mad at my mom. I didn't talk to her for a couple of weeks, and which I apologized for. And and she understands, and she understood why I was upset, and she understands now. But it was like sitting. It was like a seed, and then a random. I wasn't planning on breaking up with her. I wasn't planning on anything. We were just having like a weird couple of days, and then she's like, something feels off, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not secure in our relationship. And like the words came out of my mouth, she was taken by surprise. I was like, what did I just do or say? And I'm very close to my grandparents, and we broke up. It was a conversation in person that neither of us were expecting to have. And I called my grandfather because I call him every week on Fridays before Shabbos, and just to say, wish him well, hope you hear about his week. And and he's like, how you doing? I'm like, actually, I just broke up with Rachel. My wife's name is actually Rachel. But I broke up with Rachel. I'm like, and I have no idea what happened. And I just started crying. I just broke down. And I was like, I don't. And I don't. I can't imagine from her perspective, what she felt like.
And I thank you for sharing this because I don't make you. This is the perspective, just like the Coke thing or the
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't know it was going to happen. I don't.
Yeah.
There's no. I obviously sent a picture.
It was an explosion. Yes, it was an explosion in my head, and and the words came out of my mouth, and it didn't even feel like it bypassed me. It came from some deeper part of me, and it bypassed my the surface consciousness and just shot to the front. And I was like, I don't know what that was. but that same experience is the experience that, that I've had that intuition for friendships for last for life, with my wife, with certain teachers and certain role models that I have. And, so I trust that. I trust that experience, but that's why I was asking that,
Yeah,
because
I
out of
love that,
that,
and I thank you
yeah,
for that.
yeah, 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 of course.
No, I don't think he planned. Like, no, there's no way that was so abrupt.
I can't
There's no
imagine
way
from
there's a
from
plan.
your perspective. I can't.
It was, yeah, and
So we had to undo all of that. You had to go back to the DMV and
so
change your name again,
the plot
right?
thickens, though. No, you think I'm out of the woods. So I am somebody also, to be very candid. I think as women, even men, I'm not going to negate
Yeah.
men. Body dysmorphia,
Sure.
anorexia, all the things that society puts pressure. I wear those very loudly, and that is a wound that anyone that dates me knows they have to sign up for. And when we came back home that evening, because of course there had to be a conversation,
Yeah.
the part that really like put some salt in the wounds that really took years to heal
Oh no.
was, of course, I'm in tears. I'm like, what the hell? What's going on? He's like, I don't want to be with anyone. And if I'm going to be honest, your body just doesn't really do
No.
it for me anymore.
He
And I
said
had I
that?
had lost a lot of weight, so that part, I don't really know if it was premeditated or not.
Ah.
And but also too, there was
You don't have to say that
there
though.
was this strength that kind of came through within myself when he said it, because it was this like sobering, like, okay, we have a choice right now, Deanna. We can be a baby and cry and say, oh, I'm gonna be fat, or you can look at him and say, get the fuck out right now.
Yeah.
And that's the route I went.
Wow, good for
So
you.
it all
Oh
I am
no.
so grateful for him. I am so grateful for the experience.
Yeah.
I tell my mother that all the time. Like, I would go and do this divorce a million times to be where I'm at today.
Yes. Yes.
100%.
Yes.
So that's the story I'm in a condensed
Yes.
way.
Wow.
Share tomorrow.
Yeah. Wow. You should. Wow. I had a teacher when I spent a year and a half in Israel, after I graduated high school, before I started college, which was actually incredible. It's a very popular thing to do in the Jewish world. Um, and there's different degree, yeah, and you take some time basically to grow up and to
Right.
and and to be, by the way, culture, language, everything, different universe.
Yes.
And we had a teacher that part of his job, was, and but he felt it was part of his responsibility, was to teach us. It was an all boys school, um, and there's dorms and everything. He taught us the value, important relationship values and things to look for, things to emulate, things to avoid. And one of the things he said, he goes, if it's something physical to do with a girl, he goes, you lie through your fucking teeth. He goes, there's a special place in hell for someone that can look another person. He goes, for a guy too, for a girl, he goes, lie about the chemistry, lie about your genes, lie. He goes, do not look. He goes, there's no reason to ruin her entire life, to ruin her, to shatter her. And for your selfish, want to get that off your chest motives, he goes, there's a special place in hell for that.
There's also, I mean, that's, yes, a great point of that, and a point of
It stuck. I think it stuck with me because this was 10 years ago. That I
It's
heard of.
crazy though. Also, and so to talk about perspective, I don't agree that anyone should do that. But the question I now sit with, because when I would tell the story, I would kind of tell it in a way that I could still feel I was holding on to something. And that's not healthy either.
Yeah.
Right. And the more that I think about it, and this astrology has helped me tremendously untangle this web within myself, and that being this wound around my physical appearance or being good enough as an individual. I signed up for that. When my soul came into a body down here on earth, it knew we have a wound that we need to acclimatize. Yes. To gift the world. Yes. And if this partner for 10 years needs to put a little bit of salt to activate it. Yes. For you to then express it, sorry, baby doll, that's what you signed up for.
Yes. But we also believe in the free will of people, and in the way that it could have manifested, that could have been a little different. I totally agree with you, by the way. And I really do. And yeah, and when you make it through these things and you're happy with yourself, you could look back and say that. I mean, I wish that girl, like, I. I don't. I haven't heard. We still have a similar group of friends because we were the same friends in college, and we're still in touch with some of the same people. And like, I'm only hoping. I'm always only hoping to hear like great things about like her and how she's doing in her life and everything like that. Like, it's all I want. Like, you and I, you know, like there's an enormous amount of care, and we spend a lot of time together, and it just wasn't supposed to be the two of us.
Right.
And it's actually funny because I was very close to the rabbi and his wife on campus, and I invited them. Of course, they invited to my wedding, and they came and they did the ceremony. And one of the things that the rabbi's wife told me is like, your spirit, like your soul, must have sensed something close to what it is that you were looking for, because there's a lot of, like, even the name, just like, like, and my wife goes by Rachel, which is the original Hebrew, as opposed to Rachel, which is the English version of it. He's like, like just that difference of an A and an O in someone's identity, changed everything. And yeah, what do you think, what is astrology, what about names? What do you what because do you want to introduce what you think about names? Do you want to hear a crazy story and then tell me what you think about it?
I'm going to tell you what I think of it, and I want to
Yes.
hear your story.
Excellent.
Okay.
Perfect.
So I do think that the soul, picks the name. I also think that the souls, the babies that are not in, pick your parents. Like
You think so?
I do. I think that. I think that the name is also picked by the soul that gets kind of transported into the parent to name it. And I think those names have meanings, right? I definitely 100% believe that. There are so many times, and this is crazy too. So I was raised Catholic. When you make your confirmation, it's like kind of reconfirming your faith in eighth grade.
Yeah.
And you get to pick a saint, and you do a whole project, or you get to know that saint, and you pick that name, and it's kind of in your name. My middle name is Francis. I don't know why. I just despise that name. Just like Francis.
My
Right?
sister's Francesca.
I don't know. So I was so adamant when I got to pick my confirmation name that I was going to get rid of Francis and put in this new name that I picked, right? And the name I picked was Christine, which isn't a famous saint or anything, Maria, Joseph, the whole thing.
Yeah.
So within the last couple years, it dawned on me where I was like, what does Christine even mean? And it's Christ follower. And I think it's so profound because in eighth grade, there was absolute no basis. It was all very vanity.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to prove right?
Yeah.
But now as I've come full circle and the faith I have to something much longer, Christ consciousness, whatever it is, I'm like, wow, there is something bigger that moves through you to pick the name. What's your story?
This is crazy. I don't know that I'm actually curious if any of my future medicinal experiences will offer some kind of insight or elaboration on this. So my wife was expecting. We don't plan. When she was expecting with our first, his name is Joshua, right, or Yehoshua in Hebrew, and she was expecting. We knew it was a boy, and Jews typically do not plan names before the baby's born.
Don't you take it from like your?
You could name it after a
like
family.
The first letter of somebody.
There's different traditions. So, for example, I know that I think it was Syrians. It was at a bachelor party this week, and there's a Syrian who told me that the way Syrians name their kids is that the son is named after the father, right?
Okay.
Or maybe the grandfather, the paternal grandfather, and then the father, and then the third son. You get to pick whatever name you want.
Okay.
And so a lot of them you'll have the same. My tradition is to name after family that passed away to kind of keep their soul and spirit continuing. So my son actually has 3 names after my uncle who passed and my wife's grandfather who passed. And then the third one is a name that we liked, that we thought embodied him. So she's expecting, and we were talking about names. We weren't sure. And also, I think you have to look at the kid and be like, "What do you look like?" I mean, yeah, exactly, right. So I had a dream. We have a ceremony called the bris, the circumcision. That's when you name the kid after 8 days. Yeah, so the baby goes 8 days without being named at all. You just call it the baby or whatever, whatever. But so we're looking, and so a month before he was born, I had a dream that we're at the naming ceremony, very vivid. The exact synagogue they were going to name him at, and I'm looking at him at the ceremony, and we picked the name. Jacob or Yaakov at that point. I wasn't sure what we were going to call him. But we felt that we liked that name. We liked that character. Jacob to me, I loved because he was a embodiment. Basically, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob each embody a certain personality trait. Abraham is kindness and kindness and charity and lovingness. Isaac is judgment and placement, right? Like having a sense, which is which
like structure,
structure, and what is judgment? Judgment is looking at something and saying you, based on your behavior and the way that you manifest, this is where you belong in a positive or negative way. It doesn't make a difference, but it's recognizing that there's a placement for things, and love and kindness without any kind of sense of where to put it is incomplete. And having just this kind of sense of judgment without the loving kindness is also incomplete. And that's why Jacob, the third one, his trait is actually a blend of the two. And we call that beauty, actually. Like, it's just called beauty, Tiferet, right? And so I wanted to name that because I thought that was I always struggled between, like, what's the place to be kind and what's the time to be, tough, and in what application. And I wanted him to be able to manifest that. And so and my wife thought it was a beautiful sentiment. We were talking about it, and
a dream.
No, this was leading up to the dream.
Okay.
This is leading up to the dream. The dream. So I look at the kid, and the rabbi asked me, "What do you want to name him?" And I'm about to tell him, Jacob, Yaakov. I'm like, he doesn't look like that. He looks like Yosef. He looks like a Joseph. And Joseph is a whole nother personality, a whole nother character. He looks like a Joseph. He looks like a Yosef. And I was like, but I can't change the name without telling my wife. So I start running around looking for him in my dream. Right? I wake up. I'm like, we can't name him. We have to name him Yosef. We have to name him Joseph. And he was born. And we look at him and like, he doesn't look like a Joseph. And we were like, you know what? But like, I really like this dream. It's so significant. Like, I felt like there had to be something. And so we're like, let's do, because he had 3 or 4 different names. Let's do a lottery. First name that comes out of the hat is Joseph. And until that morning of, we couldn't figure it out. And then finally, I was like, he just looks more like he does not embody that. And like all these signs that are like coming to me, it could be that it's not my place to impress on him who he is.
And I think that's like, there was, as you're telling me this, there's a place of ego,
yes,
coming from
where
you.
I want him to do something,
and I almost
and
feel like
he has to be himself.
Spirit, the
Yes.
in real life,
Yes.
is like trying
And
to,
I
like,
gave up. I gave that up. I said,
surrender.
I said, this isn't who you are. And he is, like, if you meet him, he is himself. Like, he is himself. He's so himself. And and Joshua and Yoshua, it was a totally different personality trait too, and I'm really curious what's going to happen. But that's why I was curious, just in terms of, like, I don't know what it's going to be or what it's going to mean, but it was such a weird experience because, like, it was so much. It was almost like a revelation, but it was almost like a test of a revelation to see, am I going to be so stubborn with something that happened to me that I can't read what's in front of me? Or am I going to be willing to see what's in front of me, throw away what I thought I understood,
Belief around
and
attachment, the story.
That's it. And just be able to do that.
And I think that theme
Wow.
throughout his entire life is going to play. You're going to be brought back to that.
I keep on thinking about that. He has. I play guitar, and he has a tendency. He loves rhythm, like drumming and like rhythm. And I'm like, I should encourage him to do that. Like, I should encourage. Like, I would love for him to be a guitar player. I'd love for him to play piano, but I would even love more for him to be himself. I would love for him to be himself. I would love for him to love himself. So, yes. That's what I'm gonna have to keep reminding myself about, I think. So where was your favorite place to travel? Mexico, Peru, Guatemala? Tell me about these places. Actually, tell me about Peru because it was most recent.
Peru.
So tell me about Peru. So how'd you get there?
So it's fascinating. So my partner, Kyle, he and I are very similar in the capacity of individuality and spirituality and plant medicine and all of that. So he was in Peru for 3 months. He did a dieta, which is where you consume one plant for X amount of days. That's it. A few different ayahuasca ceremonies. Cool. There's no food. You do get to drink water. So he did that in early October, and then he went up into the jungle, literally up against the Amazon, for the duration to do workaways where you exchange work for house sitting and all that.
Nice.
All over the world.
How long was that? How long did you do that for?
Did that from, like middle to end of October until Christmas. So 2 months.
Wow.
I got there. I left Christmas Day. No, I'm sorry, Christmas Eve. No, I'm lying. Christmas at like midnight.
Sure.
And we spent 3 weeks there. And it was interesting because if we go back to, I don't have steady income, freaking out about money. When he left for Peru, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to come. Like, there is so much up in the air.
Yeah.
I have to be mindful of my
Yeah.
money. I've
Yeah.
got savings, all of that. So we booked all of it while he was already away, like while he was already in Peru. So the reason why I went to Peru was because he was there. And I've always wanted to go. And it's fascinating because I am very into vision boards. And on my 2024 vision board of all of my collage of things, it was essentially, I didn't even do it on purpose, one half CEO, investments, podcasting, independent, like getting out of corporate America, crazy, it happened. And the other side was all of my travel. However, the one area, the one country of Peru was on the side of my work.
Oh,
that
really?
I kind of thought I was focusing so much on that one side. Like I wake up every morning, I have my practice.
You almost wanted to leave it behind.
That I just focused so much on Peru that like really manifested. Like that.
Oh, interesting.
I kind of saw it as that because I haven't been to any of the other places that I.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah.
Okay. So Peru, number one.
What's it like?
We flew into Lima, and then we went to Cusco, which is an elevation of over 11,000 feet. It's double of Denver, so the elevation. I am
Holy
from Florida.
cow.
I don't know what
You
that
can't
means.
breathe.
The first day, Christmas night, we went out to eat, and I mean, it's all hilly, right? And they have like all these stairs. The first night I was leaning on buildings trying to walk upstairs because it was, you go 10 steps and
It's
I'm
devastating.
like, hang on. As I cough. So that was really challenging. And then I think the beautiful thing about Peru was my partner and I, we were very conscious about how we wanted to do this trip. We haven't seen each other in 3 months. The whole premise was we need to check in with ourselves.
Yes.
We've experienced a lot of life apart. Who are you? I need to re-meet you.
Yes, yes.
So we decided to get a cabin in one of the cities in the Sacred Valley and just re-meet each other.
Nice.
No tech, like the tech was very limited. We barely got internet service, and we got, he does motorcycles, so we rented a motorcycle and did all over Secret Valley. He's not like a biker.
I know, but does he do like on like those travel like
No.
trips or no?
I
He
mean,
just like
back in his day, he may have.
Gotcha. Okay.
Since I've been, no.
Okay.
Did that, and then we went to go see Machu Picchu, which was insane. I took a train. We did not do. You can do a like a 5-day hike. I did not do that.
Good.
Yeah, no.
Not at that elevation.
I hear it's amazing. Maybe one day. So Machu Picchu was absolutely amazing, and it's wild because I experience the land, the energy. I've been to a lot of sacred sites in Arizona, in the temples in Mexico, and with that comes this. It feels like plant medicine. You get this feeling. It's energy that gets pushed up. So him and I got deathly ill the day after we went to Machu Picchu. We both looked at each other and we were like, "This is energetics. This is like the Incas coming through. Like this is something that you have to like." I don't know. I feel like the way that there's so much turmoil happening on the planet, and it's not an accident. This needs to happen within all. We're going through a huge mutation as a collective right now, specifically right now. And mutations exist within chaos.
Yes.
So when there's chaos,
correct.
A pandemic, a disease in your body,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So I kind of feel whenever you're sick, it's actually a healing mechanism, right?
Sure, yeah.
So when I went to the sacred site and we both got very ill, it was more of like a detox, right? You're like, how am I processing this? What am I taking in to get rid within my body? And it kind of sucked because my birthday is January 7th, so I was a little bit ill for that. But the next week, both very slow. Like that was kind of out of left field. I had no idea that was going to happen. And it's challenging because I don't want to say these are third world countries because I don't think that's the right term to use, but they're not
as developed.
Not developed. So you're, pooping and throwing your toilet paper in a fucking trash can, right? Like the water you can't drink the water. Yeah. It's little things that you take for granted.
Sure.
The conveniences here in first world, right? First world problems. So that was always that was a challenge, but just throughout the whole, to bring again more astrocartography, Peru was amazing. Peru was so challenging. My Pluto line. Pluto is the planet that represents death and rebirth, your underworld, your subconscious. It is the roots of what manifests in the 3D. So if you're unconscious of some bad shit,
Yeah.
it's gonna manifest. It's gonna be scary. It's think about Pluto being it's ruled in like Halloween season.
Yes.
So like the darky, creepy things. My underworld was on display. There was such a fear.
Wow, but that's not that's a unsettling
And
place
how
to
it
spend your time.
manifested for me so much was this fear of earthquakes.
Really?
I've never really spent time in a land that
has
could
earthquakes.
happen,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so that awareness
What
of,
made you conscious of that?
huh?
What made you conscious? Did people say that a lot of earthquakes happen, or you were just aware? Like,
There's
what happened?
fucking signs everywhere, like in restaurants where like
Oh, if
safety,
earthquake, yeah.
come under here, right? So it was very much in my face, and I knew that like earthquakes exist in
Sure.
these areas. With the medicine, with ayahuasca, the last 6 months that I've been working, every time I've had these ceremonies, I've noticed this internal earthquake where I can feel when I'm on the medicine, it's shaking.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, all right, the chances of an earthquake happening are not that likely. There's more of a metaphor that is being
Yes.
birthed.
Yes.
And the question I would ask myself, where is this earthquake happening within myself?
Mm-hmm.
As scary as it was, and as much
Wow.
so also too, in Lima, we booked a Airbnb on the 18th floor, which was a great idea 2 months ago. When we got there, the first night I looked at Kyle and I was like, I can't stay here. There is so much anxiety and fear. Sure, it may not happen, but I will spend the money to get us on ground level somewhere around the corner because I can't stay here. And
Right.
and we moved.
Right.
And
Good for you.
I couldn't do it. There was a level of just,
How did he respond to that?
he's one of the most empathetic, loving humans I've
Amazing.
ever met.
So happy.
Ever met. In fact,
happy.
I was the one at times that I was like, no, it's fine. We don't want to spend the money. He was like, I'll book the Airbnb,
Yeah.
Deanna. I was like, no, I'll do it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it all worked out beautifully. But as transformative and the good times, there was equally as dark and scary and being sick. Also being sick, I thought this was crazy. The whole thing on elevation. Once you can't breathe because you're on top of the elevation,
Yes.
it was this awareness of like suffocation.
Yeah, well, your shortage of oxygen.
Right.
Legit.
And like that whole thing of like then you're really fucking with your mind and the psyche of just going down the street to get food, right?
Yeah.
Am I gonna keel over?
Yeah.
Like where's the hospital? Like it got wild internally.
Yeah, definitely. Wow.
But a profound experience. That the Incas, the empire, I learned so much. They started to speak to me, and I always think this with any type of ceremony, travel, medicine, women's circle, the second I say yes to a trip, the second I give my money, my energy in my energetic exchange, right?
Yeah, sure.
That's when the medicine starts working. So the second that I booked a trip, that's when the medicine I start to receive.
Awesome.
I went to a retreat in
Because
Guatemala.
you're taking a step, you're entering the door. You're opening. You're walking into the door, and now you're in. Hey, you're in the. Welcome to the room.
Exactly.
You know we've been waiting for you over here. Do you ever listen to Grateful Dead music?
I don't. I want to go to. Don't want to do anything in Vegas in the Sphere thing.
Yes.
That is something that I do want to experience.
So
need to
here's.
listen to it.
Okay, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna pause because I have to go to the bathroom. But I want to go into this for a second. Mumbai. We're sitting in front of you with some Mumbai.
So medicines, like I was saying, are very a practice in my life. Mumbai is the cocoa leaf.
Oh, cool.
We talked about tobacco being one of, if not the first spirit plant on the planet. The cocoa leaf has been also like the second, maybe even the first, right?
Yeah.
And I think another area of being weaponized, just like tobacco, is using this in an
What is it? So yeah, okay.
So cocoa leaf. What I don't want to say the word, but
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
that type of medicine.
Cool.
I don't want to insult the spirit.
Of course.
And
can I smell it?
Absolutely.
Does that have a smell?
When you're in Peru, it's very common for the people to chew on cocoa leaves. It helps with I believe what happens is it opens the capillaries or like it gets oxygen in. People will eat, you'll see natives a big chunk of cocoa leaves working through the field. It sustains.
Really?
Yeah, it curbs appetite. It gives you like an oomph kind of, right?
Yeah. It's a stimulant. Okay.
But a very healthy way. There's nothing bad in this. It's just been weaponized, and that's
Interesting.
why. And I think as somebody who has abused this drug in my life, in my earlier life,
Yeah.
it's been so beautiful to incorporate it in this capacity to regain its spirit and
Right. It's beautiful.
it's right.
It's you're revisiting it for as a new person.
Exactly. And in the indigenous culture, they would have, I believe, what is called a. I don't think I'm saying this right. It's not a mambasita. It's like a mamba something where tribal leaders, women circles, men circles, they would all have these, and the idea is for everybody to do it. And I'm going to show you how to do it.
Yes.
The premise behind this is to speak sweet words. It comes from the heart. You're going to see me. I also have what is called ambil, and this is like a liquid tobacco, right?
Okay.
So I'm incorporating the masculine tobacco and the feminine
Cool.
So you first do a little bit of tobacco. I have like a little stick here. You put it on your gums to salivate.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
And the idea behind this is the masculinity forms the thoughts.
Sure.
It more structures the thoughts.
Yes.
After I put this in my mouth for a little bit, I then take a spoon of the mambe and I pack it in the left corner of my mouth. The left side has to do with the heart.
Yes, sure.
So
I'm a lefty.
you have the masculine of the mind of kind of structuring the thoughts, and then you have the sweetness of the mambe.
Beautiful.
Where then it comes out the mouth and you speak.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So I really love, it's kind of like a catch-22. I love doing this and then going on my podcast. However, I think it's very ugly to have a chunk of this in my mouth and my tongue get all green.
Right.
And I do video.
Okay,
So.
I gotcha. Well, that's not a problem here. You know. And either way, even if it was on video, I don't think I can't imagine caring, or I can't imagine caring about anyone that would care. You know, so
I don't like it.
That's him. Yes. I was going to. I think it's first of all, just even philosophically, just in terms of awareness of presence of what it is you're going to try, like how you're trying to be intentional with your words and yourself and your train of thought. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
So what I was going to tell you about the Grateful Dead, I think they have a reputation, obviously, you know, as being what they are, you know, the hippie jam band culmination of like the 60s, but almost like they became pop culture, right? They became, you know, just everyone's, you know, part of get on the bus, you know, get on the weird, you know, hippie train. If you listen or read about earlier Dead perspective, particularly with Jerry Garcia, who was like the de facto leader of the band, even though they refused to have any kind of leadership structure, which is why they were so inept in so many aspects of their lives. They're first of all, their concerts followed a structure, and that structure is of a psychedelic trip. Right? And so you won't even understand that unless you listen to a concert, right? And unless you recognize what, like Jerry Garcia says, he goes, you could listen to our music and you could like it, and it speaks to you. He goes, but you'll never understand it unless you're doing a psychedelic while you're listening to it. And he was like, not in a condescending way or like, you know, like you're just not going to be on that plane to experience what it is that we're trying to say, because your
consciousness isn't there.
Yeah, it's not there. And the music starts light, fun, boppity, cheery, breezy, light. It's like a laugh is in the air, right? Like imagine like, you know, like a room where everyone's just sitting and laughing together, and like everyone just even after you stop laughing, you're like, and like, you know, like the whole room is kind of filled with this content satisfaction that you just it's good. And then it gets a little weirder and a little darker, and it gets a little darker and a little darker, and then it usually culminates. There's a couple of songs that have the other one, Dark Star, or anything like that, and it kind of culminates in a scary primal, and what you would call in the trip sequence, you know, Death of Ego, or you know, like that scary part right before you're reborn. And then it's amazing. They almost always end that part with a song called either Sing Me Back Home, or Morning Dew, Wake Me Up in the Morning Dew, My Darling, which is like just survive. The song is based on post it's set in a post-nuclear world. And if you listen to the lyrics, it's so haunting. It's a guy, the last person in the world after nuclear war, is just walking through and he's waiting to hear a baby cry and he can't hear anything. And he's waiting to hear a mother and he can't hear anything. And it's just quiet. It's just a void. But like he is the spark of consciousness that still exists, you know. And so, um, and then it will usually end up again. It'll usually end with a new gusto and a new wind and a new life breathed into it. And every show follows this. It follows this sequence.
I love that.
And while you're experiencing it, the band members individually, but also so as individual components of themselves and also as a unit of a band, they're speaking. Like they use like I part of what I love in music, I've always loved, is eloquence. I love lyrics. I love singer-songwriters, Dylan, Springsteen, Van Morrison. You know, a lot of the Dead has that kind of stuff. James Taylor, Billy Joel is a spectacular lyricist. Simon and Garfunkel, you know, like I mean um and for the first time in my life, I found that the music was saying was speaking to me, but it was like there was so much intention behind the music playing that you can detect. I think, like, if I listen to a cover band and I'm like, oh, they're playing that song, but the jam parts, they're not speaking. Like they're playing music, but I haven't heard anyone express ideas. Like I feel like I'm listening to lyrics. Someone is saying something to me. Someone, you know, the guitar is saying something to me. The drum is saying something to me. It's laughing about something, or it's serious, or it's like, do you think you know what you're doing? It's rumbling and it's confrontational, and it it's the unseen world. It brings you into a world beyond the reason I'm having a hard time expressing this is because are
limiting.
words are limiting. Because what do? I'm trying to capture a context and an idea and a vision and make it available to you.
Yes.
And you don't have and until we have that experience. So if you got what I was saying,
Tastes like.
yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I need to go taste it.
Correct. And I've actually had this experience. So full circle, actually, before I bought this house, I remember I was telling you how nervous I was. I called my wife, and I'm expressing how I feel to her. I'm like, I feel like my chest is like squished in, like, you know, the walls are closing in on my chest, and I'm just trying to make it through before it closes on me, and I feel like I'm just gasping to breathe and to live and for air. And my wife was like, "That's how I feel." Oh, like every time I try to tell you, like when I'm feeling anxious, like that's what I'm describing. But like until I said those words, she never said that to me, but she'd experienced that.
Right.
I think that if you are curious about this unseen world, I think that you'd be doing yourself an enormous favor. I've noted I had never listened to a full concert while I was on a trip. I've listened to it with, I'm gonna forget the name again. Not
Santa Maria.
Santa Maria. Santa Maria is a great guide. Holds your hand, helps you into the door, but you don't understand the context until like you've had. But I think but once you've reached that level of consciousness, Santa Maria could help bring you back into that room again, almost.
I agree.
And I want to send, maybe I'll send you a couple of these concerts to listen to.
Please.
And you can't have. It's very difficult to have the full experience with distractions. Like it has to be an encompassing experience. You know, you have to have a good sound system,
Right.
and you have to and you can't be distracted with your phone or whatever it is, and just be with the music and just be receptive. Listen to what the people are saying, because they're telling us, like, and I don't think they're any greater than like any other person, but I do think that they put a lot of intention into what they're trying to say, and you know, when you get like a note or you read you know, like you're like, oh, they got what they got this, you know. So I don't think they're any greater than any other person. I'm
Their
not trying to.
channel is just clear.
Their channel is clear, exactly. And then if you actually listen to Jerry Garcia talk, it's funny because he talks the same. If you listen to an interview, he talks the same way that he plays music,
That's fascinating.
which is excited, enthusiastic, bubbly, all over the place, laughing, good sense of
Authentic.
humor, authentic. Also excited to listen. And one of the things he talks about is the unstruck note. Is the or the chord that's unstruck? Like the band is you know, like you're playing, you're going, and then everyone's waiting for you to hit that note, and you skip on it, or you wait, or you hold, and you're like, but where'd it go? I want that unstruck note. And you're like, but that void, that void is the note. That void is that, you know, that emptiness is that experience, you know, and like what we said, that's almost like you could say that at the adversity in our lives, that when we're experiencing it, like where'd it go? When looking back, you're like, oh right, you needed that to be missing like that. You needed that to be gone there. You have to let me know if you when you get a chance to. I'll send you a couple.
This weekend.
This weekend.
Yeah.
I'll send you a couple. Do you have Spotify, Apple Music, or neither? Spotify. I'll send you 2 or 3 different concerts that they embody the spirit. Like the concerts have spirits to them, have personality to them.
I'll believe that.
And so I'm gonna send you a couple, and you can kind of pick a random song in any of them, and kind of almost get a feeling for the aura that they're kind of going for and creating. And I'd love for you to let me know what you think of it.
I would love to do that.
Let's see. What else do what else do you want to cover? So you say you want to take a step back from your podcast.
I kind of have. The last episode that I put up was in December. I went to
right before your trip.
Right before I trip.
You haven't done a trip summary.
I thought about it last week. I also kind of think too with the way my setup. So Kyle, my partner, we live part-time together, and it's a 1-1 apartment, and I feel like I put all of my podcast stuff kind of away.
Yeah.
So it takes a minute to bring it all out. If it's not, it's like any instrument. If the instrument's put away, you're not going to play it. So it's there's also some huge shifts happening for myself, astrologically speaking, around my work and career, or my obviously work and where I live. And I know I'll be moving within the next 18 months, 100%. Where, I have no idea. Really just allowing the universe to show me. Astrology is cycles. If we can, and eclipses. You know what an eclipse is. We hear all the time. Eclipses happen, they happen 2 weeks apart, 2 times a year. These are huge times throughout the year where destiny and fate come in and realign you with your destiny. When your baby was born, when you got married, big things that you think are controlling, you would be surprised how much of that is lined up to eclipses, whether it be like a couple days later, a couple days before, whatever it is. So I've kind of taken a break, and I also too, I can see how I want to perform more in real life. And I think that's kind of the switch off. I can see in myself the willpower is there to dedicate to some type of outlet, some medium of speaking. It has been the podcast for 2.5 years. I'm now taking it kind of on the road.
Do you find yourself energized by being with people, like doing things like how'd you feel after the open mic?
So it has felt the past 2 times very good. Very good. So in addition to astrology, I'm also really into human design. Human design will blow your mind. It is a very practical tool. It also incorporates astrology.
What do you mean human design?
Human design is another language. It's another sacred tool. Just like I pulled up this map of your...
Yeah.
I would pull up another map that is like a body.
Oh, yes. Okay.
It's another type of thing. You still using your birth time, all the things. In human design, there's 4 different energy types. I'm a projector. So your question is, how do you feel after after a podcast or after recognition and invitations are key for me. Mm-hmm. If somebody doesn't invite me for my perspective, I will not say it, because I know that I can see energy in a very specific way that can be very harsh. Growing up, I did not have this awareness. So as a projector, baby projectors, little kid projectors are branded.
When you say harsh, what do you mean harsh?
I'm gonna
harsh like blunt or harsh like actually aggressive harsh? Like
no. Think about this.
Harsh is a strong word.
If there is a person who is running their head up against some type of relationship issue.
Yeah.
I need to set a boundary where I can't be just this dumping ground of a bitch fest.
Okay.
There needs to be an invitation of Deanna.
Yes.
I see your wisdom and your perspective. This is what I'm going through. Please tell me your insight. If you don't allow that and I go in, it's going to feel a lot more poof,
Sure,
right?
sure.
So that's why I love that you saw me on stage, invited me for a more intimate conversation. That's what I love, right? There was, when I did the first open mic night on at Zen, that woman Marissa that we were talking to, she saw me, she pulled me over, she invited into further conversation. So my goal, or
she seemed wonderful, by the
she's
way.
amazing. I saw her Friday. We went to Zen and I practiced.
How was her reading? Was she a little more comfortable?
Well, yes, like
I'm so
that's
happy.
another
She's
person too.
oh man.
Who values my perception, my perspective, and is like, what could I do better? You're doing amazing.
You could see she's becoming herself. You could see that you could see a look in her eye where she is.
She's an artist.
But she is. She's coming into herself. She is. Beautiful. And it's amazing. And her writing and poetry really seemed to. I mean, it was, first of all, it was incredible.
Yeah. Very gifted.
You know,
Very gifted. I'm so
incredible.
happy our paths crossed. All of us. Nothing is on accident. Ever an accident.
Yeah. There's a great song, Grateful Dead song called "Eyes of the World," and "Wake up to find out that you are the eyes of the world" is the chorus, right? Which is beautiful, and that's what we are, you know. And it's funny that you say, you said earlier about chaos and like how, when you're like
mutations happen throughout chaos.
Exactly, right? The world is chaos, and humanity
is going through a huge mutation. We are separating between two humans. Are you going to let the propaganda and the
But did you get the feeling that there hasn't been as much consciousness in the world in the last 10, 15 years? That it felt like people were sleepwalking.
Yes.
More than it felt like people were themselves.
I think the pandemic
woke people up to that.
Was one of the mutations, whether it's real or fake or blown up or whatever your beliefs are, needed to happen.
Yes.
And I don't want to get into politics. The political people that are on stage right now.
Yes.
Side with whatever you want. I think we can all agree they are here to bring chaos. They are here to
mix things up.
Shit up. Yes. Whether you are fearing for your life or whether you are on board and it's the best thing ever, there is a level of chaos that
is actually what the two responses are. It's fear for your life or buckle up. This is crazy. I don't know what's going to happen.
But trust it. Yes. Trust that that something is guiding us. I think that's where it kind of gets people.
But we live in a godless society.
Exactly.
People are afraid to say the word God.
In something.
People are afraid to say faith. People are afraid to say the word God. People are afraid to say, and it's so funny because it's not irrational. Like it's not rational necessarily. It's not irrational to believe in God, and it was only put at odds in like the 19th 20th century. Like wisdom, like even with medicine, plant medicine was just integrated with people and culture and society.
Right.
And now we live in a world where they're splintered, but they're becoming married again. Like they're coming back to it. I
spoke to a friend who actually helps me on my podcast. He has a podcast about music.
I'll share
it with you. Yeah. And shit, I just lost my train of thought.
Your friendship.
Okay. Yeah. He said he's very particular about what he likes to listen to, and he said something that made a lot of sense. He said, I will not be listening to any new music in the future. And I thought that was really interesting. And the way that I interpret it was, and he said, there's like the new music, you can only orchestrate notes in so many ways, right? Like, not to say all of it hasn't been done. Everything hasn't been done. But a big chunk of it, now we're just going to repeat the shit, right? It's just kind of, it's old. And I thought to myself, that's fascinating because I find myself, I cannot listen to anything on the radio. And I have really come back to medicine music, to drums, to more of a tribal beat where
primal
is a great word to use.
It is just going straight down to your roots. But people like what people like about music today is also beats. Isn't that weird? like it's a different type. One is one is a legit boom, ba boom, ba boom, and you're like, and the other one is boom, 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 boom. But
there's something about like a
the beats,
trance,
yeah,
like
there's something. Yes, yes, yes,
that I think we're
definitely.
all kind of.
But it's funny that he says that. It's funny that you say that because I am of the same opinion. But we live at a time right now with some, if you want to look for them, some of the most talented and incredible and creative and unique and visionary musicians. John Mayer playing with the great with Dead and Company now.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's that he is he hello, incredible. And blues is, and
We're on the
what
precipice.
country we're a country, just the emergence of country is the emergence of instruments again.
If you think back, okay, so I'm bringing more astrology. The time of the Renaissance, where the planets were at that time, it's happening
No
again.
way.
So we're it's another type of Renaissance.
Yeah.
The innovation, the
Podcasts.
artistic, like there is a level. It just is more techy. That's what it is.
Sure, it's a different context, but it's a return to this. Let's see what happens, and let's be creative, and let's change. Yeah,
It's the
I
Renaissance.
spend so much time because I I'm very nostalgic about a time period that I never lived through.
Even think about I was watching an astrology this morning. In the 60s, Martin Luther King, the
Yes,
assassination,
yes, yes,
the at colleges, all the
yes,
political, the
yes,
hippies.
yes,
We're
yes,
we're
yes,
moving in that now.
yes,
Vietnam, the war.
yes,
It's a
yes. And I
cycle.
remember thinking to myself, I'm
Everything is a
nostalgic for this, and
cycle.
I'm like, but look at now. Look at now. I
Yeah,
mean, look at
we're
now.
living in the 60s.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. And I keep on thinking to myself, these experiences that I'm having, these are gonna be legendary experiences that we're gonna be talking about. We're gonna be talking about going to Mama's at open mics. We're gonna be talking about the local band that you heard at the brewery, of the talented people that you couldn't believe that existed. You're gonna talk about how podcasts became the medium that
Yes.
that changed society. And you,
Decentralized.
yes,
We are
and it's,
bringing it back to the people.
yes, 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 yes. That feels like a good place to leave it, doesn't
I love
it?
it. Yes.
Amazing.
The people. Thank you so much.
Dana, thank you so much for doing this. This is so much fun. We're gonna do. By the way, do this again for sure.
Invite me.
And
I'm a yes.
yeah, awesome, beautiful. I'll do this again. Thank you so much. I'm gonna. What I like to want to start doing is posting links basically to anything that you recommend, and everything we talked about in the show, so that anyone that wants to access anything that you've been talking about, could find it pretty easily.
Thank you.
This is amazing. Thank you so much for doing this.
Ciao.
All right, bye everyone.